What makes a tractor stop being just a piece of farm equipment and become the kind of legend people will stop everything to watch? Out in the field, power is not just for show. You feel it when the soil gets heavy, when the implement digs in, when the acreage is massive, and when an ordinary tractor simply cannot handle the job. That is where machines like these come in. Tractors that seem like they were built with no fear of going too far. You are going to see some of the most extreme farm tractors ever built by man. Rare machines, huge machines, modified machines, powerful machines, and tractors so different that some of them look more like mechanical challenges than traditional farm equipment. Stay with me, because with every spot on this list, things get heavier, stranger, and more impressive. And the tractor closing this ranking has enough presence to make many modern machines look small. Fendt Trisix Vario. The Fendt Trisix Vario was introduced in 2007 by Fendt, a manufacturer from Germany, as a concept created to show how far a high-horsepower tractor could go. It appeared at a time when large farms needed more traction, more stability, and machines capable of pulling heavy implements without compacting the soil too much. Its biggest difference was the 6-wheel, 3-axle configuration. That layout helped spread the weight more evenly, increased the contact area with the ground, and gave the tractor a presence completely outside the ordinary. Instead of relying only on bigger tires, it put power to the ground in a smarter way. The concept was presented with around 500 horsepower and Fendt's Vario transmission, a continuously variable transmission that adjusts power smoothly without harsh gear changes. In real field work, that means moving slowly with precise control while keeping steady power, even during heavy tillage or when pulling large implements. Visually, the Trisix Vario looked long, low, and incredibly stable. The 6 wheels caught attention from far away. The cab had the modern Fendt look, and the whole machine gave the feeling of a tractor built to dominate wide-open fields. Even though it never became a mass production model, it remained one of Fendt's boldest agricultural concepts. And if this German tractor already starts the list with 6 wheels and the attitude of a modern giant, the next one takes a different path. Rarer, rougher, and carrying that old-school spirit of a machine built to impress through brute force. Ford 1156. Some tractors impress you with a spec sheet. The Ford 1156 impresses you with mystery. It appears on this list as a rare, rugged, and poorly documented machine, the kind that catches attention exactly because it breaks away from the standard and feels like it came from a time when mechanical adaptation was almost an art form on the farm. Its strength is less about official numbers and more about presence, since reliable technical information about its engine, torque, and production is not widely available. The safest way to look at the Ford 1156 is as an uncommon machine connected to the culture of modified tractors and the desire to turn conventional equipment into something stronger. In real field work, a tractor like this would make sense for tillage, heavy pulling, and working with larger implements. The logic was simple: a strong diesel engine, a direct mechanical setup, tough tires, and low-speed pulling power. It was not about modern comfort. It was about handling load and staying in the field. The transmission, when seen through that older mechanical approach, should be understood as a tool for strength, not smoothness. In tractors like this, what mattered was keeping momentum, choosing the right gear, feeling the weight of the implement, and letting the machine work steadily, especially in firm, heavy, or uneven soil. Visually, it carries the charm of an old reinforced tractor. A long front end, a simple cab, large tires, and the sound of a diesel engine working under load. It is a machine that draws attention because of its rarity, its rugged look, and the feeling that it was built to solve farm problems with steel, power, and mechanical creativity. And if the Ford 1156 already brings that mix of mystery and brute force, the next tractor seems to have taken the idea of a custom build to an even more unusual level. NX 890 Copycat. The 10X890 Copycat is a tractor that impresses more through the boldness of its design than through a famous factory spec sheet. It is known as a custom machine with a heavy look and an unusual concept, built to stand out among some of the most different farm tractors ever created. The name Copycat already gives a hint of its personality. It suggests a project inspired by large articulated tractors, but taken down a more handcrafted path. Instead of being born as a common factory product, it seems to carry the identity of a workshop build, full of adaptation and mechanical creativity, something often seen in the world of rare agricultural machines. Because it is not widely documented, details such as exact horsepower, engine type, torque, and transmission are not reliably listed in official materials. What makes this tractor extreme is the combination of a robust structure, unusual proportions, and the look of a machine built for heavy draft work. In the field, a tractor of this kind would have a clear purpose, pulling large implements, working in firm soil, and turning weight into traction. This type of machine does not need to be fast. It needs to hold power, overcome resistance, and keep moving when the implement starts asking everything from the tractor. With its large tires and rugged appearance, it has the kind of impact that makes any tractor enthusiast stop and stare. It feels like a project that came out of the shop with one simple mission: be different, be heavy, and prove that farm creativity can also build legends. And if the 10X890 Copycat already feels like an out-of-the-box creation, from here on the list starts moving into even heavier, more famous tractors with a true giant presence in the field. Versatile 1150 Custom. When an articulated tractor is already big from the start and then gets modified, the result is usually a machine that is hard to ignore. The Versatile 1150 Custom enters this list for exactly that reason. It takes the reputation of Versatile's tough Canadian-built tractors and pushes that presence into an even more extreme direction. What makes this model extreme is precisely the custom side of it. The original Versatile 1150 already had a reputation as a rugged tractor, but modified and prepared versions draw even more attention by increasing the machine's presence. In tractors like this, the focus is traction, weight, center articulation, and the ability to put power to the ground without wasting it. Since many custom versions do not follow one single factory spec sheet, exact numbers need to be treated carefully. Depending on the build, the engine, power, and components can vary quite a bit. Even so, the heart of this tractor is its heavy construction, simple design, and ability to pull large implements across open ground where smaller machines would lose time and traction. In the field, a Versatile of this size fits heavy tillage, large discs, deep rippers, large-scale planting, and wide grain country. The center articulation helps with turning, while the large tires improve grip and stability in heavy, dry, or uneven ground. Visually, it has that classic impact of older articulated tractors: a square front, a wide hood, a tall cab, huge tires, and a stance that almost seems to push the horizon. When it is working through dust with a wide implement behind it, it feels like a machine built to cover acres without complaining. If you are enjoying this ride through some of the most extreme farm tractors ever built, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next videos with heavy, rare, and impressive machines from the field. And if this custom Versatile already shows raw power, the next one brings modern strength from a brand that became a reference when the subject is giant articulated tractors. Case IH 535 Steiger. The Case IH 535 Steiger represents a more modern generation of high-horsepower articulated tractors. Built by Case IH in the United States, it belongs to the Steiger family, a highly respected line on large farms for combining power, technology, and the ability to work with enormous implements across large-scale fields. This tractor was built for heavy operations, with power in the range of 535 horsepower, depending on version and configuration. It uses a large displacement diesel engine, normally with 6 cylinders, designed to deliver strong torque at low engine speed and keep working for long hours during tillage, planting, and heavy draft jobs. The transmission can vary depending on configuration, but the goal is always to deliver power with control. In tractors of this size, the machine needs to hold a steady speed, pull wide implements, and reduce losses from wheel slip. It is not built to run fast. It is built to turn power into real productivity in the field. Another strong point is the tire setup. The Case IH 535 Steiger could work with dual tires or high traction configurations, depending on the needs of the farm. That helps spread the weight, improve grip, and reduce compaction across large soybean, corn, wheat, and broadacre grain fields. Up close, it stands out with its tall cab, wide hood, and heavy modern articulated stance. The sound of the engine under load, the tires biting into the soil, and the implement opening a massive path behind it show exactly why machines like this change the scale of farm work. And if the Case IH 535 Steiger already brings modern technology and strength into the list, the next tractor goes back in time to show a rare and historic machine with major importance in the evolution of articulated giants. Wagner WA-17. Before modern articulated tractors took over large fields, some machines opened the road with strength and simplicity. The Wagner WA-17 was one of those pioneers. It carries the importance of helping prove that four-wheel drive could completely change field performance. This model appeared with a clear purpose: deliver more traction than conventional tractors could offer. Instead of relying only on 2 large rear wheels and a smaller front axle, the WA-17 used four-wheel drive and an articulated frame, helping put power to the ground much more efficiently during heavy tillage. Technical details can vary depending on version and year, but the Wagner WA-17 became associated with large diesel engines and strong power for its time. What mattered most was the overall package: a strong engine, a durable mechanical transmission, a heavy chassis, and big tires, all designed to pull wide implements on farms that needed more acres covered. In the field, it made a difference in plowing, disking, and deep tillage, especially in places where conventional tractors would spin or lose performance. The center articulation helped with turning, while the four-wheel drive gave it grip in firm, uneven, or heavy ground. Visually, the WA-17 has the look of a true pioneer. Large, square, simple, and built without decoration, the hood had a strong presence, and the entire machine gave the feeling of a tractor from before the comfort era, when what mattered most was handling load and working all day. And if the Wagner WA-17 already shows how articulated giants began earning respect, the next one is even more curious, because it solved the traction problem in a way that was just as strange as it was brilliant. DOE DOE Dual Drive. The DOE DDD, also known as the DOE Dual Drive, is one of the most clever and unusual tractors in agricultural history. It was developed in the United Kingdom by Ernest Doe & Sons, at a time when many farmers needed more power but did not yet have easy access to modern large articulated tractors. The solution was as simple as it was impressive: connect 2 Fordson tractors into one machine. Instead of creating an entirely new tractor from scratch, the project placed 2 mechanical units working together, with 2 front sections, 2 engines, and articulated steering. The result was a machine with far more traction than a normal tractor of the time. The configuration varied depending on the base models used, but the central idea was to add power together. With 2 diesel engines working as a pair, the DOE Dual Drive could pull larger implements and handle tougher soil. The transmission followed the setup of the original tractors, which meant the operator needed real skill to manage such an unusual machine. In the field, it was used mainly for tillage and heavy pulling. For British farming at the time, it was a creative answer to a real problem. How do you get more power without waiting for the industry to release an affordable giant tractor? The DOE showed that sometimes farm engineering is born from practical need. Up close, it looks almost unbelievable. 2 tractors joined together, large wheels at the ends, articulation in the middle, and an appearance that blends smart improvisation with brute strength. Today, many examples are valued by collectors and appear at vintage tractor shows exactly because they are rare and memorable. And if the Deere dual drive already impresses by joining two tractors into one, the next machine takes that idea of doubling power into an even heavier visual style, with a configuration that looks built to dominate any farm show. John Deere 4440 Tandem. At first glance, it looks familiar, but after a few seconds, you realize something is completely out of the ordinary. The John Deere 4440 Tandem takes the classic image of a tractor loved by many farmers and turns that base into a long, rare creation that is impossible to miss. What makes this version extreme is the tandem configuration, usually made by joining or adapting two units to create a larger, longer machine with much more presence. It is not a standard factory tractor. It is a custom creation that transforms a classic model into something far outside the normal pattern. The original John Deere 4440 used a 6-cylinder diesel engine with power around 130 horsepower, depending on measurement and configuration. In a tandem version, the focus moves away from the original number alone and becomes the visual impact, the increased weight, and the idea of multiplying traction using a highly respected agricultural base. In the field, a machine like this stands out more for mechanical creativity than for regular daily production use. It could pull heavy implements, take part in demonstrations, or show up at vintage machinery events where modified tractors often draw crowds because of their rarity and the work involved in building them. Visually, the impact is huge. The classic green and yellow paint, the unusual length, the tires lined up in sequence, and the feeling of seeing two tractors become one machine create a strong image. It is nostalgia mixed with mechanical exaggeration, exactly the kind of thing John Deere fans love to see. And if the John Deere 4440 Tandem already mixes tradition with extreme modification, the next one returns to factory-built heavy power, with an articulated tractor made to work big acreage for real. John Deere 8970. The John Deere 8970 is a serious articulated tractor, introduced in the 1990s by John Deere in the United States to serve farms that needed a lot of power across large acreage. It belongs to a generation where articulated tractors had already become important for heavy tillage and wide implement work. This model came equipped with a 6-cylinder Cummins diesel engine, around 14 liters, producing approximately 400 horsepower. That was serious power for its time, built to work for long hours at low engine speed while pulling discs, rippers, cultivators, and other large implements. The transmission was power shift, a type of gearbox that allows gear changes under load, which is very important on large tractors. It made it possible to adjust working speed without losing too much momentum, keeping the implement moving, even when the soil became heavier or uneven. The tire setup could include duals, increasing the contact area with the ground and improving traction. With center articulation and four-wheel drive, the 8970 could turn horsepower into real fieldwork, especially in large grain operations such as soybeans, corn, and wheat, where every pass needs to cover serious ground. The John Deere 8970 has the classic presence of a giant articulated tractor, a long hood, tall cab, huge tires, and the deep sound of a Cummins engine working hard. It does not need a strange appearance to impress, because its strength comes from purpose. It is a tractor built to open ground, pull heavy, and get work done. And if the John Deere 8970 already represents large-scale farm power, now only the #1 spot remains. A legendary, rare, and brutal machine, created in an era when giant tractors seemed to compete over who could dominate more land in a single pass. Steiger Tiger 4 KP 525. Some tractors go down in history because they were strong. The Steiger Tiger 4 KP 525 goes down in history because it seemed to carry the idea of strength in its very shape. Big, square, heavy, and imposing, it closes this list as one of the most memorable machines from the era of giant articulated tractors. Its biggest highlight was power. The Tiger 4 KP525 delivered around 525 horsepower, an impressive number for its time. It used a large diesel engine designed for steady low-speed power, exactly the kind of setup needed to handle heavy soil, huge discs, and operations that demanded traction for hours at a time. The transmission was built for heavy work, with gearing meant to keep the tractor moving under load. In machines of this size, the goal was not speed. It was control, durability, and the ability to keep pulling even when the implement started demanding everything from the engine and chassis. The huge tires and center articulation gave the Tiger 4 a brutal field presence. Four-wheel drive helped put power to the ground, while the machine's weight helped maintain traction in wide fields, firm ground, and heavy tillage. It was the type of tractor that seemed made to work where smaller machines would only spin. It commands respect from a distance. A wide hood, high cab, square frame, giant tires, and that old heavy tractor stance with no unnecessary styling, just pure force. When a Steiger like this enters the field with a large implement behind it, the scene feels like the ground is being taken over by a machine built for extreme work. The legacy of the Steiger Tiger 4 KP525 comes from that combination of power, rarity, and presence. It represents an era when giant articulated tractors became symbols of large-scale productivity, helping define the path for the high-horsepower tractors that came after. And that is why it deserves the #1 spot, not only because it was strong, but because it carries the image of an agricultural giant that marked an era, became a reference among tractor enthusiasts, and still looks almost unbelievable when it appears in photos, videos, or vintage machinery events. These tractors prove that farming was never built only on ordinary machines. From Fendt's six-wheel concept to the historic weight of the Steiger Tiger 4 KP525, each one represents a different way of chasing more power, more traction, more productivity, and more presence in the field. Some came from major manufacturers, others came from workshops, adaptations, and bold ideas from people trying to solve real problems on the farm. But they all have one thing in common. They are steel giants built to face heavy ground, pull enormous implements, and show that agricultural engineering can be just as impressive as anything else in the machine world. Now tell me in the comments, which one of these tractors did you think was the most extreme? Which one would you want to see working up close in a field? And what machine do you think was missing from this list of the most outrageous farm tractors ever built? If you enjoy this kind of content, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell. It is very important for the growth of the channel because it shows YouTube that this content is relevant and helps the video reach more people who also enjoy farm machines, tractors, combines, and giant equipment from the field. Because every week there is a new video about the most incredible, powerful, and impressive machines in the world. I will see you in the next video.